everything. I'll let him introduce himself even more. He's an expert when it comes to this topic of data security. He's a principal solution architect in data security. And he's going to talk about how you do data security with Microsoft products. What is exactly the tool around it? He's going to introduce something called Microsoft Purview, and I'll leave it to him to introduce the session further. So again, this is an interactive session. You can ask questions and also answer questions. Right? We have, as usual, we have 3 mugs that we will give out to people who answer Vikram's questions at the end. And yeah, thank you, Vikram.
Thank you very much. So as he has introduced that my name is Vikram, and for today's session, I would be the presenter over here. So this session is jam-packed for 1.5 hours over there. It might be possible that some might get stressed over there. And this particular one is basically about the data security. And when we say about the data security, I don't know, because I think Fatma just asked you, but let me just recap once again. How many of you are a data security admin, or how many of you have already worked with Purview in the past? Okay, only one. Okay, but I hope that few more would also be coming. But see, everything starts from the single step, right? So even though you don't know anything, that's always a good thing also over there. We would be going from the ground up. What exactly I mean from the ground up is that you just should be having an open mind over here. And in that specific case, we would be going into what exactly data security is all about. How exactly the Microsoft tool, which is Microsoft Purview, will help you in attaining the data security posture management of your organization. So we have got a very good amount of stuff to be covered over here. So many different stuff that I would be covering. So no worries if you don't know anything about that. I hope that after this particular session, we should be having some kind of deep dive session, okay, which you guys would be needing. And once again, I would be coming over here for some more different levels over here, because generally in Microsoft, what we generally say is about the level. The level. The level is level 100, 200. So as you go deep dive over there in one or the other technology, right? So we generally call that, okay, we are going into the deep dive over here. So this particular session, I can't call it level 100, but it could be between level 100 and level 200 over here. If you are new to this particular one, yes, it would be a starting point for you. Go ahead and discuss with your data admin, with your security admin over there in your organization, that how exactly they could utilize this specific feature of Microsoft, and you could able to attain, or you could able to gain the generative AI in your organization in a secure way. Because this is now a new buzzword. Every second person who is into the IT world, so they are fascinated about this specific technology, data security. All of a sudden, it becomes a hot cake. Everyone is talking about that. So what exactly make it so hot topic over there? Because even though someone is not knowing about even a single piece about the generative AI, they would be talking about the Gen AI over there, right? And now, if you could see that there is something called prompting, you could able to do lots and lots of content over there. How to safeguard those particular one? Which all are the different solutions that we have in the market? So this specific one is purely talking about on those specific front. Coming to the data security, from a Microsoft perspective, we have got the stuff which is something called Microsoft Purview. As you guys are new over here, or someone who already have worked over there in Purview, so let me just take a step back. When we say about Microsoft Purview, so Microsoft Purview is an umbrella solution. When we say it's an umbrella solution, what exactly it means? That it has got various different solutions inside that. And it can be categorized into different buckets. And one of the bucket is called data security. How you can secure your environment from a data space perspective. And when we say data, so data is basically categorized into 2 parts, or let's say, for example, 3 parts over there. Some say it into 2, some say into 3. If you would have gone into any of the vendor neutral certification, I'm talking about the vendor neutral certification from a front, that there are certifications from a security perspective, which is called CCSP, which is called CISSP, which is called CISM. One of the very specific domain in that specific one is called the data or the data security over there. So like as a human being, we have got a life. Even the data also has got a life, right from the place that once the data get originated till the time the data is archived or till the time the data is deleted from the organization. So how to secure that particular one, we are going to talk about in Microsoft Purview in basically three different solutions. And these three different solutions would be Microsoft Purview Information Protection, Microsoft Purview Data Loss Prevention, and Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management. I would be coming into those particular part. But if you could see this particular slide, what exactly it's going to tell you about that data security incident are widespread because we are generating huge amount of data. If any organization is saying that, okay, my organization hasn't got breached, so it might be possible that they might not be knowing about that because one or the other organization is going through that particular kind of scenarios over there. It means it's become a headache for each and every admin, either right from the CISO, and if you scale down over there, every person who is there in the organization is very much worried about where exactly their data is all about, right? The second stuff is that we always do lots and lots of stuff for preventing the stuff from external. We have got IPS solution, we have got IDS solution, we have got firewall, we have got various other stuff over there. But what it could be that if it could be someone internal from your organization. It already have got all those kind of privileges over there, right? We are preventing it from outsider. Nowadays, the new norms is that organizations are also spending a huge amount of money, huge amount of investment is also going on from a malicious insider. Because take it into example that if someone leaves an organization, what exactly they do? They think that, oh, I worked on a very critical project. And as I worked for so many years for that critical project, it becomes my baby. And I have got the full right. As I'm going from organization A to organization B, I try to copy those particular one into my OneDrive, into let's say my box, into my pen drive or various other places over there. But in an industry, you need to think about two different stuff. Because any organization, when they work, they generally work into two different types of expenses. And that exactly when you would be learning about that in a vendor agnostic kind of certification, all this wording which I'm going to talk about, it will come up over there. One is called a OPEX, and the second one is called a CAPEX, capital expenses and the operational expenses. When we say the capital expenses means buying this desk, buying the laptop for the organization, which is one time over there. That's the capital expenses, which every organization goes and do over there. And the second one is the operational expenses. I, as an employee, Microsoft is paying me the salary every month over there. It means it's a recurring cost. So if I have worked on a very critical project, that particular IP or the intellectual property, it's still for Microsoft. It's not my personal property over there. So if I would be moving to organization A to organization B, the assets are still Microsoft assets. So I should not be copying, or if I would be trying to do those particular copying over there, so the tool should be intelligent enough to notice those particular ones. Or if let's take into example that any employee whose manager and the employee is not having a cordial connection between each other. Generally the employee, so he is a dissatisfied employee. What he will do? He will try to exfiltrate some kind of data from one organization to the other organization, right? Or take into example that if there is new launches which any organization tries to do, he will just give the source code and everything to the third organization. It means This is the biggest threat for most of the organization, the insider threat. And we would be going to talk about this insider threat. And the third part, before you guys, many of you guys came in, so we both were having a chat that there were many organizations who are using application X, or let's say the technology X, technology Y, or technology Z over there. That, okay, I would be using one for data classification, one for data monitoring, one for the data protection, one for some other tools over there. And when it comes down that how exactly the integration works over there, we will say, oh, this API we don't have. We cannot able to integrate with tool A with tool B. Oh, I have got this limitation that it's going to come out in the next fiscal year, right? So generally, the biggest headache that, or the third one, if you could see, that 80% of the decision maker purchase multiple products over there. The biggest stuff is that we don't know the power of M365 E5 or the E3 licenses. Because every one of you who are sitting over here, who is working in one or the other organization, you would be having your own username, you would be having your own password over there, and a user-based license has been assigned. Those licenses are either an M365 E5 or an E3 licenses over there. It means M365 is a complete umbrella. You can specify the complete zero trust motion within that specific one. Either you are talking about the data security, either you are talking about the devices, either you are talking about the identity, either you are talking about the network or about the infrastructure. So this zero trust is not exactly a Microsoft composition. It's an industry standard over there. If any of you who would be knowing that how exactly this works, it's such a flexible tool that you could able to achieve right from the day that the employee joins over there. So from his identity to his devices to his data, everything you could able to safeguard. So the whole purpose, you should be knowing about the technology in and out so that you could able to integrate all the dots, and based upon those specific dots, you could able to build up a solution, not a specific technology. We are just talking about the solution over here, the whole big picture that you have to think over a period of time when you would be having your career path as an enterprise architect or as a kind of a senior management role, when you have to think as a holistic view that how exactly the security posture of my environment will look like. There you could able to join those particular dots over there. That's exactly M365 E5 is all about. And one of the subtopic we are going to talk about is the data security. And in data security, as I told, that it's Microsoft Purview. Again, Microsoft Purview is an umbrella solution. Something which we have got is for the data security, something which we have got for the compliance, something which we have got for the purpose of governance. I'm not going to talk about the second and the third pillar over here, but I'm purely talking about the first one, which is talking about the data security, in which there are multiple solutions. And again, I'm just going to talk about the three basic solutions which every organization should be having. And that specific one is what? MIP. When I say MIP later on, so don't confuse that I would be talking about some internet protocol or something. I'm purely talking about Microsoft Purview Information Protection. DLP means Microsoft Purview Data Loss Prevention, how exactly it could help you out. And the third one is IRM, Insider Risk Management. A level 100 to level 200 over there. And after that, I would be open to the different questions that you would be having in your mind. Okay. So coming to the next part. What generally happens? That when the data, as we talked about, and purely when we are talking about the data, as I told, that data can be categorized into three parts. The first is the structured data. Means we have got the rows, the columns, the primary element, or the data which is saved over there in SQL, Oracle, those specific one. The second or the third one is loosely integrated, which is called the semi-structured or the unstructured data. What I'm going to focus upon is about the unstructured or the semi-structured data over here, not about the structured data. Because when I'm talking about MIP, DLP, and IRM, I would be purely talking about the data which is either saved into the M365 space, means either it would be sitting over there in your Exchange email, Either it would be sitting over there on your devices, on OneDrive for Business, on Box, on Dropbox, or any other places over there. Means the data which you are going to create with the M365 apps, which we commonly known as Office 365, right? We generally call it Office 365, but the Microsoft name for that particular one, we change it as what? M365 apps for enterprise. Means either we could be using Word, Excel, PowerPoint, PDF, and PDF. I'm just so mark my word. PDF also I'm talking about. Okay, and the last one is about the Outlook. So these all data which we generate, how exactly we could safeguard those specific data. So the data can be compromised by any means, by the external threat. It could be the data by the malicious insider who tried to exfiltrate the data, or I am new to the organization. I don't know what exactly the data which is critical or which is not critical over there. Because I need to spend some amount of time in the organization to know about what exactly critical for my organization. So unknowingly, okay, not knowingly, unknowingly, I have sent out an email which contains some sensitive data. So the tool should be intelligent enough to stop me at that point of time. So data exposure by the negligent insider. Unknowingly, he or she tried to send that mail. The mail should be blocked. If I wanted to share something through SharePoint, through OneDrive for Business, it should stop me over there, right? So this all very well can be achieved using these all three tools. So as we are talking about that organization, what it means, that's the biggest headache for every organization. Until and unless you don't discover, how will you know that which is critical for you and what is not critical for you? Correct. So you first need to know that what exactly your data is all about. So discovery of data is very, very important over here. Then once you understand that what exactly the data that you need to safeguard, then based upon the user activity, that's the powerful part of the machine learning that we would be talking about. That how exactly that the thing is that one size not fits all. And I would be talking about some scenarios where it would be talking about that I would be blocked for the same file, but you might be allowed over there. How it can be happening? So based upon certain algorithm that we could able to do certain stuff which you need to be doing, and based upon those specific one, you could able to achieve. And the last one is that you can prevent the data from unauthorized use. Means if I am working with a data which contains a credit card, which contains the Qatar ID, which contains, let's say, for example, any country national ID over there. When I try to print, when I try to copy that into the USB, when I try to save it over there, because see, most of the places when you go over there, the USB is generally blocked. You cannot able to do anything on those smart storage devices, right? How generally the people used to exfiltrate the data? The exfiltration is now happening through the web browser. You name it and you get a storage kind of account and you can able to create it, right? At least you would be getting 10 GB of data which you could able to upload. So the browser becomes the number one place from where the data can be exfiltrated in any organization. Why? Because you can go to box.com, you can go to dropbox.com, you can go to personal OneDrive over there, you can go to Google Drive, or think about any other stuff. Okay, you could able to transmit the data over there. So it could help you in that specific way also. So coming to the next one, that's the triangular. So anyone who has done those particular one, the CIA triad, we generally call, this is not the CIA triad, this is a different triad over, right? That like the CCSP or any vendor agnostic, it is the confidentiality, integrity, and availability. I'm not going to talk about those specific triad. This triad is basically about the information protection, the data loss prevention, and the insider risk management. And now, as the building blocks has been done, let's go ahead and enjoy this journey. Any question till this part? Are all clear till the summary? Perfect. You all are there with me? Yes. Super. So, what exactly it can do? A very high level one. When I say the MIP, it can discover it can classify, and it can protect your data, right? Insider risk, it uses the analytics, okay, and the machine learning, and it could give you a trend. Based upon that, you can specify which user is a high risk user for me. What exactly the action that I should be taking up over there for that. And the last one is the data loss prevention. In short, we call it the DLP. There are many such solutions over there in the industry. Either you go to the Microsoft Purview DLP solution, either you go to any of the third party. I'm not going to talk about the name of those particular ones, but ultimately behind the scene, what exactly they do? They exactly do the same stuff in safeguarding the organizational data so that your organization should be safe. The user accidentally or intentionally cannot able to exfiltrate the data. So the technology should be helping you out. So coming to the very first part, because now we would be going somewhat deeper into the first one, which is MIP or the Microsoft Information Protection. And stop me wherever you would be having any single doubt over there. Whenever, this is an important concept which I'm talking about now. Whenever we are talking about MIP, we have got a very important concept which is called the label. Label is a very, very important concept that you need to understand. And let me just give you a very simple analogy. Based upon that, how exactly you could able to understand label. So when I am from an Indian background, so let me just give you that specific example so that it could able to be articulated. In my country, maths, and I'm give you a kid's example. Either you have got a kid, either you have got brothers or sister, or when you were a kid, you can able to relate that specific story. In my country, out of all the subjects, maths is considered to be, or mathematics is considered to be the most important subject. Means if a kid goes to a school, if he forget English book, no worries, parents is not bothered about that. Okay, if he forgets, let's say for example, the history book or the any language book, nobody would be bothered about that. But if he forgets the maths book, the parents are very much worried. And whenever the result is out, nobody would be talking about how many marks you got in Hindi, or sorry, or in English. But the first question that they would be asking, how many marks you got in maths? And so this is just the culture of my country, which I'm talking about. It means that's the most important subject in for every kid. What it means is whatever you do, but the most important subject for you is what? Maths. And any small kid, or let's say till a K-12 kid, if he goes over there, or if I could open the book, if I could see it's written 2 plus 2, or 12 divided by 6, or some mensuration, some trigonometry, depending upon the maturity level, I could easily say, oh, this book is a maths book, right? Means just by opening any page, let's say the book contains 200 pages over there. But if I could go to the 100 page and if I could see sine theta, cos theta over there, or if I could see, let's say, rational number, I could very well able to say, oh, this is a maths book. It means I have to take this book next day to the school. By any means, I cannot able to miss this book to be not to be kept in my bag. What exactly you are doing? You are giving the highest priority to that specific notebook or the book over there. Same analogy goes with the data. Data is a data. Whatever you write, because see, machines are what? Illogical. They cannot able to say what exactly is a critical, what exactly is not critical for you. So how exactly you could able to know? If it contains the national ID of a country, if it contains the credit card of a credit card of a user, if it contains the international bank account number over there, if it contains certain stuff which should be safeguarded in a proper way, you generally label that data. So whatever the data that you are going to create, the first thing is the labeling. confidential, highly confidential, general, public, whatever the different way. In Qatar, in CSA, we have got a different way of labeling over here. So which you would able to know. But ultimately behind the scene that the labeling goes in this specific way. Clear? So that's called the label of any kind of data over there. Now, the second concept which would be coming over there, which is something called the sensitive info type. Again, a confusing stuff, but see how exactly you could able to understand. Or in short, whenever I would be talking about the SIT, that's called the sensitive info type. Means if I could be seeing that if somewhere it's written Qatar ID and an 11-digit number over there, I could say, oh, it's a Qatar ID over there. So the machine should also able to understand based upon that regular expression that it might be a Qatar ID. Or if there would be an MX card number, if there could be, let's say, for example, the Visa card number, depending upon what exactly the content of that specific document, the machine should able to understand. If you will write, let's say, because I would expect everyone should be knowing about IP addresses over here. If it would be written 192.168.20.10, 100% what exactly it means? That it's a IP address. And it might be possible it contain all the IP addresses of my organization. It means that data or any file which contain that information is what? It's a critical data. I need to label that data in a proper way. So sensitive info type are those particular component which will help me to determine whether the data is a critical or a non-critical data is an SIT. Whereas when I know those SITs over there, then based upon that, I could go ahead and label my document. Clear? And based upon those labels, because if it contains the confidential or the highly confidential, it means I have to take a very high weightage of that data. I need to safeguard that data by any means. You cannot able to exfiltrate that data. So labeling is a very, very important task in any of the organization. Clear? And as I was talking about, that I would be talking about the unstructured data. That's the reason if you could see over here that which all are the sources, either Exchange Online, SharePoint, OneDrive, or Power BI also over there, depending upon where you are using it. Because ultimately you need to use that particular data. Where you could be using, it's now a world after COVID that I could be sitting in the cafe, I could be working from there. I could be coming to office, or I could be in vacating also, and I need to see, oh, that hey, some needs to send me a very important mail. So I would be syncing my mail over there somewhere near the beach also. Means no longer the norm is that I have to be within a limited boundary. The boundary is limitless because of this cloud technology, right? So you could be using any of these particular technology, any of the devices, and then based upon that, whatever the data that you would be using, based upon those data classification service, the SITs, that those stuff which I was talking about, what you could do, you would label that data. Either you could drop down and choose one of the label, or based upon those particular SITs, if it would be matching, the tool is so intelligent enough that it can also give you a kind of policy tip that if I'm a new user, I don't know what exactly is sensitive or insensitive for me. So the moment I would be drafting any email, the moment I would be creating any document, and if any of those particular stuff which would be matching, automatically the tool will give me that, oh, this contains sensitive data, so a policy tip kind of stuff, so that you should be either classifying that data as a confidential, choice is yours. Go ahead and do that particular one, or even the admin can do that. If those particular concepts are over there, automatically your document will get labeled as per what exactly admin has agreed upon. Yeah. So in this way, the data you could able to do it, the labeling, and it could be either in the different cloud. Means M365 is the primary one. Apart from that, if you could see at the very top, it could be there in any third party also. Box, Dropbox, Google G Suite, those particular one. It doesn't mean that if you are having a personal box, it can able to safeguard. No, box exactly mean like how you are purchasing the M365 services from Microsoft. If any organization who has got this box or Dropbox or those kind of subscription, you could able to safeguard those specific ones. Okay, so the data can be there on the on-prem, and the next one is about the schematized data. I'm not going to talk about the schematized data. So there are other gurus over here. So they would be talking about them, or they already would have talked about that. So in this particular way, you could able to classify the data over there. Then this is how exactly one of the classification would look like. You can be having different classification in your organization, and it's by default now bundled up along with your M365 apps. Means with your Office 365, either Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, whenever you'd go. So you have got a concept of sensitivity. Depending upon what exactly your admin has configured, you would able to see all the labels over there. And either it can automatically be selected depending upon the admin who has created it, or it will give you the option that before sending the email, you have to label your data. Until unless you don't know what exactly labeling, you would not able to see what exactly labeling is all about. So the first thing that you will see, you will select over there. And that's exactly the knowledge sharing session that we are doing, so that you can inculcate this particular one to the other people in your organization, so that every single person, because security is everyone's responsibility, not only the security guy responsibility, right? Everyone should be helping to make this particular world more secure. Now, then based upon that, you can create the different labels, right? So the label over here, it just shown that public, general, confidential, restricted. It's just a showcasing. If you could see a differences, see the yellow and the red color one. What's the difference that you could able to see over there? Yes, yes. It contains a lock. It means you can also have the encryption. Not only that, for the purpose of labeling, I am labeling. I can also have the concept of data encryption. Means if I would be having the data encryption over there, so if I and let's say share are there from Microsoft, if I would be sending an email to share, and let's say to any one of you, even though you got the mail, but and when share would be getting the mail, he would very well able to open it without any kind of friction. Seamlessly, he could able to open. But even though you received the mail, but it was not intended for you. The moment you will try to open, you will not able to open that mail. Why? Because it was only for the internal audience, only for the people who are inside that organization. You can also go into a granular way that if there is an HR department and there and the other department over there, consider HR and the IT department. There is a very confidential which is only for the HR. By mistake, HR has sent it out to the IT department over there, even though they are from the same organization. So when the second person from the HR goes ahead and open that email or that document, the second user could very well able to open it. But the same thing opened by any other person of outside of HR department, they will not able to open that. So the labeling is just not for the purpose that when an audit comes over there, you can say, yeah, I'm labeling all my stuff. You could very well able to safeguard your data based upon those encryption. So it supports the encryption also. Then when we are talking about how to categorize the data, because labeling comes after you categorize the data over there. We have got different options. I'm not going into details about that particular one. One of the stuff which I talked about is what the SIT, the sensitive info type, out of the box. Whenever you would be having M365 or whenever you go to the Purview, in that specific case, from a Microsoft perspective, you would already be getting all the industry standard. Like let's say Qatar ID. Qatar ID, you don't need to create that. It's already been created in your tenant by Microsoft. Like some of the other country who are advanced from a data perspective or the data posture perspective. Take into example Australian. In case of Australia, they have got different norms for the different for the data classification. So the people who are working over there, so there are already built in different type of sensitive info type created over there. Means the heavy lifting already has been done by Microsoft. But take into example for Oman. Oman ID is not there. For Qatar, Qatar ID is there, right? For Kuwait, Kuwait ID is also not there. So if I am working with a customer from Kuwait and they need to safeguard the Kuwait ID so that the document contains the Kuwait ID, it should get identified. I need to go ahead and create that particular one. So the tool give you the flexibility that you can able to create based upon your organizational need. So not only the built-in one is already there, but apart from that, you could able to create it. Right? This is one of the examples. In the same way, we have got the named entity, we have got the exact data match. The third important one, which I will be talking about, is the OCR, which is now getting more and more weightage. So when I say OCR, it's called the optical character recognition. Generally, what happens? You take a paper, you write something, or you print out something, you take a photo of that. It might be possible that that particular snap, which you are saving it as a PDF, which you are saving it as a JPG, as a GIF file over there, might contain certain stuff which is confidential in nature. So that also can be safeguarded using MIP and DLP. So it support those OCRs also. In the same way, we have got various others one also over here, right? For the sake of the time, I'm not going into the detail for those specific one. Everything is available today. How advanced, how mature is your organization, how you want it to categorize, so you can very well able to use those specific one. Clear?
I will just give one example, just to elaborate, because it's an important topic. Consider that some organization will say that credit card is a sensitive information, as an example, because a lot of people say that credit card information is sensitive. But if you see a lot of countries, they say that credit card in itself is not sensitive. Credit card not only your name, or like the PIN or the expiry date is actually becoming like more confidential. So you will mark that, for example, that credit card information would be sensitive information type, okay? Credit card name. But you will say that when the credit card name, along with the human name, along with the expiration date, when these three combine, it become a label, then the document, if some document has these three attributes, then mark it as a confidential information. Okay? So you apply, you can have a one-to-one relationship or you can have many-to-one relationship as well. Okay? So you can just say, okay, I'm just like, you are working in a bank and you just receive some like, or you just went to a cafe, you just give your credit card, somebody write it down and they just want to send it to someone to use that credit card, right? So if they take a picture, like whatever, and if all the devices are in, like having the endpoint protection, they will not be able to send that kind of images to anyone else. Okay, just to elaborate, like where these are coming from.
Very true.
Identification is done by the SIT, whether it is sensitive. Suppose I forget to select any of the label and I'm forwarding a mail which have the confidential information. So is it done by the SIT to identify this mail contain sensitive information?
So, okay, so it purely, let's say, for example, how can I determine that whether it's a sensitive or not non-sensitive? The common example is the credit card which Shay has given. Credit card means it's already built out of the box. If you could see 200 plus is over there. So yes, it could able to identify if it's matching those specific pattern. But every organization is different. In my organization, I am using certain keywords by which I could determine that the document contain a critical document or not. Like let's say a document containing offer letter, or a document which has got the heading as resignation letter, right? So those particular one are sensitive. Those are not coming out of the box. If you haven't created that, so it's not going to stop you. And that's the reason you have to do your homework. You have to go ahead and check with the different team. Or let's say many organizations, what they do is that there are some third party organization who is basically into this particular part, who goes through department to department, do all those kind of brainstorming, what is critical, what is non-critical, pull that particular data and then feed that into the tool so that now you are complete. Now, apart from this built-in SIT, you have got your own custom SIT of your organization. And then after that, whenever you would be drafting an email, creating any document over there, it will identify. And that's the whole picture. That's the end goal that every organization needs to achieve.
So I have one example. I work as a database administrator, and most time we interact with vendor. There was a time I wanted to send an email to the vendor, generated a script, a report, try to send it to the vendor, and I select the category that it is external. So I got the email bounce back and I got the violation because it captured that there was some sensitive information
Exactly.
on the attachment.
Yes. So correct. So got the point. So basically the whole point is that you have to do your homework. Otherwise, some of the built-in one, by that it could able to capture. Right. And again, when I would be coming into DLP, if until unless you don't specify that, tool will not able to, it's not so intelligent, right? Otherwise, what will happen? Always remember that if you are in an oil and gas sector or anything apart from the IT is always a facilitator over there. Like any organization who is whose main stuff is the oil and gas taking out, right? IT working as a facilitator over there. The whole business is what? Taking out the gas from the earth. Correct. So if you are going to stop each and every process, it means you are hampering the process over there. You need to be a facilitator. That's the reason by default, it's not going to stop you. You have to create those kind of policies. And if it's matching those violation policies, it will go ahead and stop you there.
I will ask one other question. A lot of people say, okay, I will mark everything as confidential. What is wrong with it? Everything confidential, no matter what is in the file. What is the harm in it? A lot of security people, they say, oh, I don't know what it is. Let's mark everything as confidential. Okay? The problem with that is that you will have a lot of false alarms. Okay? Because there will be so many signals, you will just like even the real signals you will start ignoring. Okay, so that's a lot of problem that you have to manage what is the right boundary. Otherwise, if you put everything as confidential, you start sending files, it will start alerting, oh, this is confidential, this is confidential, this is confidential. The leakage will happen and you will say, yeah, it's a normal thing. I have marked everything confidential. So you have to balance the security, what you want to do, or what is the right mix. So that's again, like I've seen multiple customers, they just say, why not we mark everything confidential? But you have to then, everything is secure. So it's you have to find a balance, right? Otherwise you will not be able to work. Like a lot of time I'm working, let's say, I send an email to Vikram and I said that it's only for this intended user. Even if you try to forward to anyone, even in the internal organization, you will not be able to do it. If you try to print it, you will not be able to do it because it's just for his intention. Okay, so it's about the usage and how you want to use it. These are the policy which the organization applies to do that the people can work, but also they apply in a way that their assets are safe.
Perfect. Okay. So let's
for like the OCR data, how we can classify the OCR data?
sorry, do you repeat?
The OCR data, either it can be some like checks or QADs, right? But still we can name it as a different name, like
yes, whatever the name that you give, but inside that the content which is over there, if it's matching your any of your SITs, so it can very well able to detect that one. Only for this particular region, if you are putting a handwritten one, so handwritten one in Arabic as of now it's not there, but if it's English or any other languages, so it can very well able to. So let's say if you have written something, credit card number is this, and instead of the document, you taken a photo of that, and you try to attach it to any one of the mail, it can still able to identify that because of this OCR functionality, that JPG image or that, because if you use any of the mobile tool, and if you try to scan, it generally asks you, you wanted to save it as a PDF, you wanted to save it as a JPG, right? So even PDF photo, it can able to identify. Okay? Now, this is what exactly I was talking about and we have got certain templates. Generally, in the other parts of the world, we use the template and it's very well can be utilized. But for this part of the world, most of the time we have to go with the custom, the last one. Why? Because if you choose the financial, and if you could see that it contains those particular ones, the Australia related, the US related, right, GDPR related, depending upon those countries which are already advanced in the data security. So lots of heavy lifting already has been done by Microsoft. But over here in this part, we have to create everything from the ground up. So most of the time we would be using the custom, and you can able to define the logic as per your own. Then there is something called policy simulation. What generally happens, the data which is over there in the SharePoint, what it can do depending upon those SITs, because what can happen, the data, if you see the data lifetime, most of the data spend most of the time at rest. The maximum lifetime of a data is at rest, right? It means if you're having the data at SharePoint or OneDrive for business, or let's say the Exchange mails over there. So we have got the functionality that it can go ahead and classify those data based upon my SITs. So it doesn't mean that if I am an administrator who is not so able enough, and because I have got the power from the tool, if I could do something wrong. So in that specific case, it becomes very difficult to go back, right? So we have got the concept of simulation. Simulation means just a kind of audit. It will go ahead and it will tell you that, okay, at this particular location, and you can very well able to scope it. Take into example that you scoped it to one of the SharePoint site or few of the OneDrive of the users over there. Whatever the file that it could identify, if it's matching, it will give you a kind of simulation report. Until unless you are not 100% confident, you should not make that particular one on, because it might possible that at that SharePoint site, it contains hundreds and thousands of files. One small mistake by you will make all this particular file as a encrypted file over there. The user will start complaining. So always it gives you an option of simulation where you could able to simulate, you can able to pick your scope, you could able to simulate the production environment. It will give you that which all data is matching this particular standard. Then once you are comfortable, once you are confident in that specific case, you can go ahead and turn the policy on. It can go for 30 days. And if you're still not comfortable, you can again run it once again. Until unless you are not comfortable, don't make it on. This way, majority of the data which are over there at rest at SharePoint, as a Exchange, SharePoint, and OneDrive will start getting auto-labeled over there. Okay. Then about the PDF, this is the number one question from every admin, what they will be talking about. So even we could also able to label the PDF, or whenever we are creating any document, and if we could choose save as PDF, so it can also inherit those specific labeling. So Office PDF support it has got, and it can also render the protected PDF. If you are at SharePoint, you could hover over there, you could able to see those PDF. The third one is that the auto labeling part, which I have just talked to you about. That auto labeling for the PDF at SharePoint and OneDrive for Business is also being supported. And also we have got the support from Adobe, that when you are opening that particular file, you could able to see the label. If you could see, the labels are showing up over there. So with Adobe, you can create certain GPOs, or you can able to do it using Intune or any other management tool, so that you could able to see on those PDF file how exactly the labels look like, right? So in a nutshell, not only the Microsoft Docs, but even the PDF is very well supported from the labeling and the protection perspective. Okay, and this is the wizard, how exactly you would be creating, means either. So not only on the files, you could also able to do it on the email. Yeah, please.
I think the PDF,
Yeah.
you said we can protect the PDF file, we can apply the label. So if we receive any PDF file by email or through OneDrive, when we save it, then we, does it prompt us to save, apply the label like it does for the Office application in my environment? So is that because
That's a very good question. So once you are getting any particular document, okay, that's a different story. When you are creating any document, that's a different part over there. So when you are getting any document, when you are saving that specific document, at that time, when you are saving it on your machine, at that time, it will not ask you to label that one. But if it contains those sensitive information, and if you save it to some other place, because you are at the receiving end, it will have those particular label configured over there because of the auto labeling. But take it into example that now when you are drafting any email and you are using that specific PDF, now you are originating that specific one, right? So that the situation get reversed over there. So depending upon situation to situation, it will work in that specific way. And it could be possible that it could be having the label A from organization A, and depending upon your organization, you would be labeling it with label B over there. So the other organization label hasn't got any picture. Means once I would send back to that particular one, the document would be treated as per their label. But once it reaches my organization, whatever the label that I have created, it would be treated based upon those specific one.
So manual labeling is not possible for PDF, however, auto labeling it is.
Yes. So there are certain ifs and buts about the PDF. That PDF you have to save when you create a document. When you choose save as, when you choose export PDF, because it will remove all the encryption and the other part. It's not supported, and it's very well been documented in our documentation guide also. Yes.
You mentioned the label itself changes from organization to organization. Can a certain document have multiple labels, or is the label overwritten?
No, it's just the metadata over there. When it reaches organization A to organization B, their metadata and the way how exactly you are configuring the label in your organization depends over there. My label doesn't work over there. But the moment it will come back, when let's say the classic example of a mail traveling to and fro over there, right? So when it reaches to you, your label would be over there. When it reaches to me, my label would be over there. So it purely depends upon that specific.
But just consider it in this way. The label travels with the document or the asset. Okay, it's with the lifetime. What Vikram was saying, I don't have the experience of that, but consider that you are receiving some document. Okay, if you want to change the label, even it will ask you why you want to change the label, and that is even tracked. Okay, so if, for example, you have a document and you have confidential or something and you want to downgrade it, it will ask you what is the reason, and it can trigger as well, because I was sending some documents to like one of my customer, and all the documents, because there was sensitive data in a sense that it was between the customer and I, but it was automatically marked as Microsoft confidential. When they receive it, they were not able to open the file. They cannot forward it to anyone else. They just say that the file is corrupted. I just say, okay, I have applied a label. Then I'm the one who should change the label. I change the label, and I just say when you receive it based on your own organization, you can change it accordingly.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and this is so where exactly you could able to see. So there is something called Content Explorer, and you should be having a specific permission to see those specific one. Why? Because you could able to see that based upon the label, based upon the sensitivity label, based upon the SITs, how many documents are categorized based upon that. So the statement, with great power comes great responsibility, right? So you are having the great power. Everything, whatever you do is being audited over there. So because you could able to see everything, every single stuff is getting audited. Why? Because you could able to see that, okay, based upon the sensitivity label, like highly confidential merger and acquisition, you could able to see how many documents are with that. So there should be a place where it's getting audited also, right? So you could able to see using this Content Explorer how many documents are labeled, how many SITs are matching this specific one. And this is the example that how you could able to see that what exactly are the simulation mode, what exactly the stuff which are matching from which particular site, the one which I was talking about. Then you could review those particular one, that yes, it's really matching as per the logic which I have created. And then once you are 100% confident, you can make it from simulation to on. If you could see, there are certain stuff which are there in simulation, and there are certain stuff which are there in the on. So based upon your confidence level, after your you learned that particular, that all the documents are working or are getting labeled as per what exactly I have configured, you can move that one from simulation to the on mode. And this is how exactly the label will look like at the SharePoint site. If you could see, this is the PDF file, and see the column, the sensitivity, you could very well able to see what all sensitivity that every document would be having. So not only the Office file, but even the PDF file, you could able to see the labels. So I have to, and this is the policy tip which I was talking about. The moment you would be drafting any document, see this document contains certain secret key, the AWS secret key. And at the top, you could see the policy tip. This is what exactly I was talking about, that the moment you would be drafting any email, the moment you would be creating any document, at that point of time, your admin can configure so that if it's matching those conditions, those SITs, automatically you could able to see that a banner would be coming, which we call it the policy tip, which will help the user. So let's say out of 10, Even if 4 users will read that one and classify the document, it means at least I am 40% what compliant from that way, right? Even though the other 60% will go ahead and close that. There is a close option also over there, right? If you just click on OK, automatically the document will get labeled to highly confidential, right? So these are some of the capabilities which the tool is having, which could help the organization to get the labeling done in a proper way. Then next move to the next building block. Generally, what people do is that they can directly jump to the DLP. No requirement of having over there in MIP. But like as we say, there is something called icing on the cake. A cake doesn't look good unless you do a proper icing over there. It becomes decorated. So if you have done your homework for MIP, you can configure DLP in a very, very granular way. Very granular way. And when we are talking about the DLP, if your other concept from MIP is clear, it becomes again a cakewalk for you. Consider DLP as a kind of Outlook rule. See, Outlook rule, you can configure it in your way that you can customize it that if a mail from user X is coming, go to this folder. If a mail containing subject, this is coming from here, go to this particular folder, right? So the way how you can granularly you can able to configure your Outlook rule in the same way the DLP. Whenever we are talking about the DLP, we have got the concept of policies, we have got the concept of rules, and there are and or not. If you are having a good logic, you can create a very, very granular stuff in DLP. So whenever we're talking about the DLP, it means what exactly we're talking about? We are safeguarding the data. And again, I'm repeating the safeguarding the unstructured data, the data which is either there over there in Exchange, OneDrive, SharePoint. And when I say OneDrive, don't make it wrong that OneDrive means the OneDrive for business, not the personal OneDrive. When I say SharePoint, I'm specifically talking about SharePoint Online. Even SharePoint it can do, but majority of the cases I'm talking about the cloud-based technology, right? Even you can able to do based upon the devices, even down the, because Copilot is the buzzword everywhere. Even the Copilot, okay, it not able to process those particular one. Depending upon how you have configured your DLP, very well you can configure it in your own way. And if you see any of the competitor product, they have got tons of different machines that you need to be configuring for the purpose of DLP. Again, I'm not going to talk about any of the competitor, but you have got good amount of infrastructure that you need to create, and then only you could configure the DLP functionality of those particular one. When it comes to the DLP from Microsoft Purview, which is again a subcomponent of M365 E3 or the E5 solution, what you just need, because this is a SaaS app, the heavy lifting is being done by Microsoft. So what you just need, you need to be having a correct sets of permission, a role-based access control. You just need to be having an internet connectivity. And what you just need, you need to go to purview.microsoft.com, and from there, you could able to configure. You don't need all those kinds of heavy lifting, what you have to do in the other tools over there. So that's the reason it's unified, it's cloud native, it's integrated, and it's easy. Easy in the sense because you have done all the heavy lifting in the MIP work, and you know that the logic, every human being has got the logic over there. It becomes an easy cakewalk for you. And then again, see the concept which we discussed before, the sensitive info type, the EDM, the trainable classifier, which we just talked about few minutes back in MIP. Everything is coming into picture, and along with that, we have got the concept of label. So take it a consideration or take a scenario that there is a document which is classified as confidential, And the condition that you have given is that, oh, I'm creating a DLP policy for Exchange, and I would be talking about which all location you could able to do. So take into a consideration that you are creating a DLP policy for Exchange, that whenever the label is confidential, you should not be able, or you should not able to send that mail to outside the organization. A simple scenario. Sensitive email cannot be sent outside the organization, right? The user is drafting the email, and let's say the default label get assigned is what sensitive, or the user from the drop down, because the user has got the functionality, either he can change that default label or he can put any of the label which you have published over there for them. So the user choose the label as confidential. And if the second user, or in the 2 or in the CC or in the BCC, some users are from the organization and some users are from outside the organization. The moment he will try to send, it will be blocked over there. Why? Because the rule was there that if the user is sending an email with a label which is confidential, it cannot be sent outside the organization. So at the very first, means not even go to the exchange also. At the user level, it would be blocked. So the user, what they will do? Oh, because the users are always there, try to exfiltrate using a different way. If the security team will block in this way, they are trying to find out another means by which they could able to send. Oh, I see that I cannot send an email which is having the label as confidential. The user will drop down and he will choose a less restrictive one. And they will try to what? Exfiltrate the data. There, not only the label come into picture because the user can change the label, but let's say, for example, the content of that. It contains, take into example, it contains the credit card. Credit card is matching one of the SITs. So now you have to play one more extra step over there. You will say, okay, now the condition changes that not only the label, but I need to see the SIT X, Y, and Z. And those SIT, one of the SIT that you are choosing while configuring the DLP rule is credit card. Okay, Mr. User, you have dropped down the label from confidential to general, but because the content or because of the attachment, it contains the credit card information, it's matching the SITs, so I will block that. And correspondingly, you will also be generating an alert, and that alert will go to either the DLP alerts or it get integrated with your XDR solution. Let's say, for example, I'm talking purely about a Microsoft world. So it means it will go to the Defender as an alert, or if you have integrated with your SIEM solution, which Microsoft SIEM solution is what? Sentinel. So a alert will also go over there in Sentinel. Clear? So in this way, you could able to create the label, or what you have created the label, what you have created the SITs, you could very well able to configure all those specific one and utilizes it in your M365. See at the very last one, any of the M365 component, you can able to use it on endpoints. And endpoints I'm talking about the Windows, the Mac OS devices, and the browser. The browser means some places they are having Edge. Most of the places they are having Edge. They are not allowing any other browser, but it can also be working with your Chrome, and it could also be working with your Firefox. Okay, and then the non-Microsoft apps. That's the reason I told that if you know M365 end-to-end, we have got a different CASB solution, which we called MDCA, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. If you have integrated your solution with that, because one thing gets gelled with the other. If you know the complete picture, this is where exactly the role of an architect comes over there. So it can also work with your non-Microsoft apps also. And along with that, the on-premises means if you have got a file share or anything over there, you could also able to target those specific location. And this is again the summary, the unified policy that you can create and policy from the one single location. Over there at one solution is MIP, the second solution is DLP, the third solution is IRM, the fourth solution is communication complex. You have got a list of solutions over there. We are just talking about 3 solutions out of all the solutions, right? So that's the unified console, the role-based access control. It might be possible that, okay, I am an identity admin. I can go to the Entra portal, but I cannot able to go ahead and create a DLP policy. It means the RBAC permission is very well is being helpful over there. The third one is what? The granular policy control. Granular policy control means it can be taking a different action for user X and different action for different Y. And I would be coming to that particular part. And policy tip. We have just seen that how exactly the policy tip work over there. That whenever I would be drafting any email which contains certain stuff which is for the external, it will give me a policy tip. So as a user, I should be knowing, oh, this is against my company policy. I should not be doing this in my organization. Clear? Even though I violated, alert would be generated, admin would be notified, and then alert could be triaged over there also.
Sorry, just to let you know, 25 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So see, based upon the context, right, and based upon the understand the intent, see the DLP policy, one of the policy will block, the other will allow with block with override. Block with override, what exactly it means? That it will block, but still the user has got the option that it can override. No, for the business justification, I need to send that. So it means initially it blocked you, but you have got the power to override that. The third one is that it will just give you a policy tip. The same thing is over there, but the user can use it in their own way. How exactly it can work? We will be coming into those particular one too. And the alert can be investigated. As I told you, that it can integrate with your XDR and with your SIEM solution also. Okay. Now, coming to the policy, how exactly the policy is working. See, again, like the way how I told you that we have got the concept of different kind of template. Over here also you have, whenever you would be creating the policy, still you have got various templates. And unfortunately, we have to use the custom template over here because most of the other one is to do those particular countries, but you can able to create exactly the way how you wanted to create using this custom option. And if any customer who is using a third-party DLP solution, it also help you out. Means there are ways by which we could able to do the migration also. If someone wanted to come from Symantec or let's say from Forcepoint, we could able to migrate also over here. Then this is the location which I was talking about. See, if you have to create a DLP policy for Exchange, either you can only select Exchange, means it's only would be working for Exchange. If you wanted to do it for SharePoint, so there are so many locations and there are additional locations also which are getting added. This particular screenshot is a while back. Now there is an M365 Copilot location is also being added over there, right? So either you can select few, either you can select one, or either you can select all. Depending upon what exactly the logic that you wanted to configure, you could able to create the DLP policy in that specific way.
Generally create the rules.
Yes, inside. So first is the policy. Inside the policy, we have got the concept of rules over there. Okay.
Anything for the mobile device?
Very good question. For the mobile devices, we use Intune, and in Intune, we have got the concept of map. That's the reason I told you that we are working only upon the Windows and the Mac OS. Generally, when it's a how can we stop the exfiltration, we have to use Intune, we have to use the map policies. Mobile application management. Okay. So, and these are the different settings. Like say copy to the clipboard, copy to the USB, copy to the network share. If you wanted to block, if you wanted to audit, if you just wanted to block with override, depending upon your own way, your organizational need. Generally, whenever you have to block, you cannot do the block by your own. You have to deal with the compliance team that, okay, what all the actions that it has been taken care or what exactly it has been agreed upon by the management. So what you will do, you will go ahead and configure based upon those specific one, right? Yeah,
Is
please.
it possible to be flexible with this? Like, I mean, some set of people can access.
Yes, very well. Very well, you could able to do the flexibility in that way because you have the option of scoping. You can very well able to scope, let's say, for example, the first row. The first row could not able to access, let's say, cannot able to do the printout, but the second row could able to do. And again, if you have got a printing, you cannot able to print to printer A, but you can only able to print to printer B over there. So these kind of flexibilities are always over there because depending upon the scenario to scenario, you could able to create the rules and the exception accordingly. Okay. Now, this is the place where you could able to add the labels, the one which I was just showing about. or you could able to add the sensitive info type also and the trainable classifier. One of the slide was talking about those specific one, right? So the big work or the heavy lifting that you have done during the MIP part can be utilized in creation of the DLP part over there.
That the MIP we cannot do.
No, you can very well able to use. You already have got the 200 plus SITs created over there, right? But as I told, icing on the cake. If you have done your work properly in MIP, a granular DLP policy can be created. And then these are the different condition and or not. However, you wanted to configure more complex and complex, you can very well able to create it in that specific way also, right? And these are the different alerts that you would be getting in. And once you are getting those specific alerts, the admin can also able to see the info type, what exactly is matching. Admin can also able to download those specific alerts over there. So depending upon what exactly the alert you are triaging, and so it's shown over here that it's there in the XDR portal. And if your XDR is integrated with any SIEM solution, it can go to your SIEM solution too. Okay, yeah, please.
So the admin has access to this, even if the information is sensitive?
No, so not this download part, you need to be having a specific role-based access control to download that particular one. Otherwise, you will not able to download those specific one. And even for this, seeing the alert, there is a specific role-based access control. So not everyone can able to see. If you have provided that RBAC permission to the user, not to the user, RBAC permission to the admin, only those admin could able to.
It's like just to explain, it's like that there is a thief and you don't want the police to see what theft they have done. So the police needs to see, somebody needs to see it to prove that you have done something bad. So there should be someone who can at least see. You have to trust, at least there is zero trust, but you have to trust someone to at least find out what is the problem. Okay, but even the admin who are like the administrator, their activities are tracked as well. It's not that they have like a blind thing that they can do whatever they want. No, the privileged accounts are more prone to insider risk, which will be the next topic, I think. Yes. The insider risk as well.
So that was the last one related to the DLP. So as you could see, the creation of the policy, creation of the rules over there within the policy, the logic that you define. Based upon that, either the user would be getting the notification, the user would be getting the block with override, or it would be blocked. And based upon that, the alert is generated, the alert can be traced. Now coming to the third part, which is the insider risk management. This is a gray area. In many of the organizations, people generally implement DLP and MIP. But this is one of the very, very powerful feature, which is now getting momentum over there. The insider risk management, that how exactly you could able to utilize the insider risk management over there. So in case of insider risk management, as I told before at the very start, when we were building the blocks over there, insider risk management, what exactly it means? The dissatisfied user or let's understand. Let me just go one step back so that I will be, sorry. So it can track any of the user, and it might be possible that the user which I am going to track might be my friend. So what I will do, I will be biased about that particular one. So the tool is having such kind of functionality that it can anonymize the username. You should not be getting the exact username of. That's the functionality. You can choose or you can toggle it off over there, right? Because ultimately you are seeing that who all are the user who is trying to exfiltrate the data. The exact username, so see the privacy is getting maintained. The exact username is being anonymized, and only a specific user who has got a specific role-based access control could able to see that, okay, we are talking about which particular anonymized user over here, right? So the real identity of the user is getting anonymized. Then the second stuff is that the simplicity. And what exactly the simplicity? Because you have to remember one thing, whatever you do in M365 space, every single thing is getting audited as it works upon the machine learning algorithm. That's the reason whatever the activity that you are trying to do based upon those specific activity, it will track you whether you are a risky user or whether you are a genuine user. So don't be under the impression that whatever you are doing, even I'm chatting with Shiv, that particular one is getting audited. If the admin wanted to see that what exactly the chatting that's happening over there, they can able to track those particular one. So these data, based upon the audit, insider risk management purely works upon the audit over there. Every single stuff, if any organization who is having a co-pilot also, even with the co-pilot, whatever you are chatting, every single stuff is getting logged over there. Right? So based upon those particular stuff, it can identify whether a user in an organization is a risky user or whether that user is a non-risky user. Okay?
If you see on the, usually on chats, you can write a password or a hash, or it will say that it's the password, it will block it.
Automatically it getting blocked, right? It means someone is having the control over there. The privacy is maintained. Nobody is going to see it. But let's say tomorrow, if a case has been opened, because generally if the user has done something wrong, right? So the e-discovery and the various other stuff. So if let's say a case against a user, if they wanted to find out what exactly has been done, so every single stuff can be audited. Every single stuff can be taken it out over there. And that's exactly we are going to talk about. So what exactly, if you see over a period of time, the risk score, when the risk score is low, the user is a low risky user. Over a period of time, depending upon the activity that you are doing it up over there, your risk score might increase or might decrease over there. And that's exactly the adaptive protection we would be talking about. That's the machine learning algorithm that it's using, how to make that user a risky or how to make that user a less risky user over here, right? So see what exactly this user is doing. He renames the file. It's saving it to the USB. When something malicious is happening inside my organization, right? He saves, he deletes the file. Might be possible that the user is leaving the organization, or might be that the user intentionally tried to delete some file that, okay, let me just take a revenge with Mr. XYZ. Correct? So he does that particular one. And that's the reason if you see 100 plus built-in machine learning model and indicator, you need to configure those indicator, what exactly you need, like the deletion of the file. So it means those indicators are already over there. You need to configure. Not everything comes out of the box, because otherwise, as Sher mentioned, that okay, if everything is highly confidential, you would be getting so many alerts, bombarded with the alert, right? So you have got the option, you have got the tools, you can configure it as per your organizational need, right? Then no endpoint agent. It doesn't require any agents or anything. See, expedite the mitigation with enriched adaptive protection. This is one of the dark area which nobody knows about that, because it utilizes the conditional access policy. It utilizes the DLP policies that based upon, if you, I don't know whether how many of you are aware or not, because the conditional access policy is one of the most robust and one of the most powerful way by which you could able to say that a user A should able to access the teams or able to access any application which is published in Azure AD or not. So if you will say, oh, if the user who is having the risk level as high, they should not able to access the application which is published in Azure or in Entra AD. Published means what? Even the M365 is an application over there. Even your internal application, which you have lifted and shifted in Azure, is a kind of application. So the user will be stopped accessing those. Why? Because the risk level of the user is what? Elevated over there. Okay, so that's called the elevated permission. That's called the adaptive protection that it could able to utilize. It combines IRM, means the insider risk management. It combines the DLP and it combines the conditional access policy. So, see, the user privacy is maintained at every single step. Why? Because if I'm an admin and if someone else is doing, if he or she is my friend, I can safeguard that person, right? And moreover, from a privacy perspective also, anonymization. Then the second one is what? Role-based access control. That everything works upon the auditing. So until unless you don't have that specific role-based access control, you cannot able to do that particular part. RBAC permission. It doesn't mean that everything falls under what? The Purview umbrella. So if you have got the permission of DLP, it doesn't mean that you have got the permission on IRM. They are under an umbrella, but they are totally two different technology which get gelled over there. So you need a specific permission over there in IRM also. So role-based access control. The third one is opt-in. You can very well able to opt in that, okay, out of all the users in my organization, only 3 users or only the users which are the C-level users in my organization, because they are the one on whom I need to be having a special uh, care, right? So you can very well able to opt in either a group, either those particular sets of users, so not the entire organization, you can very well able to do. And last but not the least, that audit logs, because this is a very, very critical one. Every single stuff which you do is getting audited. This audit log, which is over there in Purview, can also go ahead and sync over there to Sentinel. We have got a connector. You can sync over there to Sentinel. And based upon the Sentinel, what you could do, you could create various logic and you can create the alert based upon the logic apps and integration, and you could very well able to do. Means if you have the power, you cannot misuse that particular one. There is someone over you who is auditing each and everything. Correct? So with this, let's comes to the context that how exactly it works over there. Let's correlate how exactly things. Take into example, we have got various connectors. One connector is what called the HR connector. Means the moment a employee put down the paper or resign from the organization, so it means the HR in the HR portal, and there is an app which gets created in Azure AD. Means the if a user A has put down the paper, automatically that user information goes from Azure AD to IRM. Let's get the feed. It's now I have to be very careful, and it goes ahead and do the calculation of 90 days back also over there, not only from today. The trigger started from today because the audit is happening every single day, right? It can go till 90 days back also over there, that what all things user has done in the last 90 days. Very well able to track those particular one, and you can choose that 90 days to 30 days, 60 days, but the maximum is what 90 days over there. And the next 30 days, what exactly the user who is there in the notice period, what exactly the user is doing. Because as I told at the start, user will think I worked on this project for 10 years, so it's my baby. Whatever it's there, it's my responsibility. No. Your organization is giving you the salary. You are just an employee over there, right? So it correlates the signals. One of the stuff is either he submit the resignation, high impact user, like the C-level users or the admin, which has got all the credentials over there of the organization. Right? Or it can be various stuff, non-compliant communication. Some user who is notorious user in the organization. So they generally used to do lots of other stuff, which is against the compliant. Correct? Not all users are same, depending upon any of those conditions. And there are so many other conditions also that you could able to specify.
If I'm, let's say, applying for a job, I just rename a file of my CV, change it to something, apply through email, it will be tracked.
It will be tracked, but not by just one particular one, because the series of activities has to be over there. Take it into example that a user has deleted a label of that particular file is a project X, and the project X is very confidential over there. The user deleted that file. It means that's a more serious offense that the user is doing. Because every single dot joined to the other one, right? So if I would just be working on a CV, so it will not be getting tracked over there. But if the series of activity is matching, then yes, if someone is having those kind of policies over there, so obviously
it is for the fun for other people to join, not to use your corporate computer for such activities.
100%. Every single thing is audited.
How it will audit the call over teams?
Sorry?
Calls over team?
Call over teams. That's the reason if you have to curse your manager, no, don't ping it. Call the other guy. My manager is very bad. As of now, the call over Teams, if you have got a Teams premium, okay, and if someone has initiated the Copilot or if you are having Copilot or Teams premium also over there, in that case, if someone has enabled the transcription, that's also is getting recorded. So if later, if that particular one, and that's also coming up very soon, that those transcription will also be based upon what exactly you have told you over there. The communication compliance, there is a specific technology. Okay, I know that I'm running out of time, but just 5 to 10 more minutes. Okay, that there is a solution which is called communication compliance. It might be possible that I would be using some foul language, or if I would be using any language which is against the company policy, automatically the alert will be generated and the admin would be knowing if I'm talking something about the racism, if I'm talking something about any of the stuff which is not related to my organization or which is the wrong stuff for my organization. That also, and therefore everything there is a kind of law, there is a kind of different regulations over there. And this communication compliance follows that particular regulation. So in a nutshell, if I have to summarize, every single stuff that you are doing is getting audited. So if you have to curse your manager, don't do it over Teams. Open WhatsApp and put that on WhatsApp.
So just in simple terms, just be a good employee.
I have a question.
Just be a good employee. Just be a good employee and don't do any unprofessional activities on your
100%. Yeah, exactly.
corporate.
That's the final.
That's it.
They inform us that you should not save anything like password.
Yes,
on my PC. I was thinking that just save it on my folder. So how is this getting? How will you get recognized?
See, not every organization, and that's the reason. If you could see over here, we don't have any template for our countries. Over a period of time, people are getting more and more tech savvy over there, right? So once they are getting more tech savvy, then they would not be keeping the password over there in the plain text or some other places. We have got various options, like there is something called cold scan. I haven't talked about, we are just talking about at a high level. The cold scan is such functionality where you could say, okay, go ahead and scan all the machines. And if the password is over there, go ahead and tell me that, okay, this all file contain the password.
How would they know it's a password?
Because, because, see, when you are having an organization over there, you have got the excess of multiple stuff. You have got the excess of the dark web also. You know that, okay, what exactly the common password? That's exactly the reason the team who looks after or who goes to all the different teams, they will ask, okay, what's the common password that your team uses, right? So if your organization name is XYZ, I can say XYZ 123 exclamation. So you have to deal up with those particular one. And even your password is one of the default sensitive info type, which we get it from because Microsoft is a big company. We have got some built-in sensitive info type. Those particular sensitive info type, you cannot see what exactly inside that sensitive info type. But we have got the option that all the known password, all the exposed password is over there. So if the user is using any one of them, it will also go ahead and track that, okay, that your file contains those passwords over there. Okay.
The other thing is usually on password, there is particular policy for an organization. It should be this long, these many characters, alpha and lowercase, uppercase. So that can give you a pattern as well. The other thing which I mentioned, that a lot of time when you apply these sensitivity labels on the rules, when let's say you are doing a custom thing, you define a threshold. How much likelihood is in there? Consider like as a classic example. If you have 100, I'll give from structured data, although we are discussing unstructured, I will cover the structured part, the Purview in next session. But consider you have 100 rows, okay? In 100 rows, QIDs, okay? But it might be by default that you have those many characters. So you can define if those many rows are null, then it doesn't apply. Like consider that 70% of the rules should be matched on all the data, then consider, otherwise it should be a false alarm. That is the first thing I said, that you need to have a balance in there. What is the right balance for your organization?
Correct. That confidence level over there, that how can you say that, okay, it should not be giving so many false positive. Otherwise, you will lose the confidence in the product, that it's always give me the false positive. So let's come back over here, that what exactly the user can do is downgrading the label. He is saving it to the user. Means those many activities which are against the company policies over there, right? And everything is as I told, that everything is getting audited. He deletes the user deletes the file. Means what exactly is doing? Either exfiltration, cleanup, obfuscation, right? So these are the stuff which are against the company policy. And based upon those particular one, what exactly it will able to do? It will benchmark the user, that some of the user would be high risk user, some of the user would be medium risk, and some of the user would be low risk user over there, based upon what exactly the activity that you have done over a period of time. Then when you have done those particular one over a period of time, so it will give you that how and what all stuff that you are doing it, joining all the dots. Here the machine learning algorithm comes over there. See the time and the risk score. Either it could be increasing, either it could be decreasing. Just by having one particular stuff doesn't mean that you are always a risky user, right? And you could very well able to see it in the tool. When you configure that, when you are working on a case, you could very well able to see a time plot graph that what the user, a specific user against which the user is a highly sensitive user. So you can very well define that on this day the user has done this, on this day the user has done this, and based upon that the user is a risky user. So the admin can easily understand what content was exfiltrated, right, based upon all these points, and collect all forensic evidence. We have got the concept of forensic evidence also. So generally we don't talk about the forensic. I will not talk about the forensic as of now. That's the last stage. But we have got the concept in IRM. Then these are the various stuff. See what exactly? Quick start with one click. Means you have got the indicator. You need to configure those indicators. Here the machine learning algorithm is already over there. We have got the template, that departing employee template. Automatically it will select that, okay, what exactly the conditions and the other one. Or if you have got the high risk user, automatically the template has got all the things configured. What you just need is to configure those particular indicators. Just put a checkbox, and that's exactly what it needed. Okay, copy to the file, delete the file. So everything is very well documented over there. So, and easy to get started with recommended quick policies. This is the one which I was talking about. You have got the concept of the policies that, okay, departing user, risky user, high privileged user. The moment you will choose, automatically the policies will get created, but still you have got the option to go ahead and modify the policy as per your organizational need. And then the alert, if it's matching those particular one, the alert would be generated for a highly risky user, and you could able to see that once the alert would be raised, a case also could be created over there. The investigating team could also able to create the case. The people would be investigating and see from the user activity on which particular date, what exactly the activity the user has done it. So there is a concept in when you go through this kind of industry certification, there is a concept called non-repudiation. The user cannot say that I haven't done this particular part. If a mail has been sent from your mailbox, you cannot say that I haven't sent that. You cannot deny that particular one. So it's a non-repudiation part over here. Everything is being audited and everything is being told over here in the tool.
That's why whenever you are going away from the laptop, always lock it down. Otherwise, your friend will start sending emails.
Yes, and that's exactly M365 comes into picture. In Intune, there is a functionality which is called Windows Hello for Business, where you don't need password. Your face will recognize, and let's say you can configure along with your Bluetooth that if you are having a phone, let's say, for example, if I left my phone over or left my laptop over here, and if it's outside the proximity, automatically the laptop will get locked over there. Consider you are in a public area, like airport or some other place. If you go and get a glass of water over there, automatically, if you are a negligent user, so the technology should help you out. Automatically, it will go ahead and lock it. Okay. So this is how exactly everything would be calculated. I think it's 9 o'clock, so it's not working or what?
How many slides?
Oh, just 2 or 3 slides. Oh, I'm running low.
We also have the questions as well.
Yeah, but you have to ask 3 questions to give.
I will ask 3.
The team, just to summarize, you got like the Purview is a suite of products. Okay, there are 2 parts. One is the structured data, which I'll cover in next sessions about having the labels and sensitivity labels with SQL, with Oracle, and things like that. Here we were talking about the unstructured data, which is on the laptop. A lot of customer, like some companies ask me, they are like startups. They are saying that we are building code, but we want this IP to be over. So what developer should not run and throw this code out in the public. So these kind of things can be stabilized here. So and similarly, if you are designing, a lot of people, I guess Vikram was saying, there can be mistakes happen. Like users are not aware of this. So these technologies can help the organization be safe. And also like these things can go bad. The data can be leaked. Sometimes like the intention is not the same, but if the data is leaked, the companies can get penalized and all
Yes.
these regulations and governments are in place for these reasons.
So coming to the last part, few slides over here. I hope that you guys are still there with me. I'm sorry that I'm just overshooting the time for a few minutes. Okay, but so last part is about the adaptive protection. So adaptive protection, if you see, the same DLP policy will work differently for different user. Wow, because based upon the risk level of that specific user over here, right? So the DLP policy 1, policy 2, and policy 3. If you see the red, amber, and the green, means sometimes it means for one user it will block with override, and the third one it will just give you a policy tip over here. So just to see that Rebecca and Chris are two different users doing the same stuff. One of the user will be blocked, Chris would be blocked, but Rebecca, if you see, it's a warning, means it would be blocked with override. It would be blocked, but the user can able to go ahead and allow that particular one. That yeah, I need that. How exactly it can happen? So see, same action results in two different rules. You want?
Yes.
Okay. So.
Swati has done the trick. Done. It's exactly on the clock. Try to join again. But there's applied rule that.
Sorry, my laptop died.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but let me just summarize. So it ran up to. So what exactly I was trying to convey over here is that with adaptive protection, because adaptive protection, how exactly it works? It works in conjunction with the DLP policies, with the CA policy, means the conditional access policy. And based upon that, when you configure it that the user A is having the risk level as medium or low, and that's the reason the user A is getting allowed. But the user B is having the high risk over there. So because of the CA policy, the user B is being stopped for sending any kind of mail or doing any kind of exfiltration of the data. So in a nutshell, this is the IRM is a dark horse, which many people doesn't know about that, but it's one of the most powerful technology within the Microsoft Purview umbrella. So go ahead and spread this particular one. And I hope that, okay, this particular session would be, you would have got something that what exactly the three different solution. It has got multiple solutions, and it's just an overview that I have given you out from a MIP, DLP, as well as from an IRM perspective. Ask question.